Hey, food explorers, welcome, welcome, welcome. Look at me on track doing podcast episodes in a timely manner. Woo! What brave new world are we in? I have had quite the week. So, for anybody that is listening that only does the audio version of our Food Explorer podcast, we do have stuff over on YouTube. And myself, Colleen, I am the Food Explorer podcast. So I try every week to get a podcast episode out that does a audio version, and then I get the YouTube stuff going. But this past week, I have actually had quite a bit of fun putting together my baking area. So I mentioned in a previous episode that I really miss baking. Part of the problem was just the ease of getting it done. Like, there wasn't a single spot that I had all my ingredients, all my baking supplies, all the, pots and pans and bowls and everything that I needed. So I now have that organized. So if you are listening to this podcast and you want to see what I've done this past week, you can actually head over to our YouTube channel, and I have a couple of shorter videos up with all of that. So that's been really fun. I was going to actually bake something yesterday. However, I had a really good day. I got all of my big calendars for January through till June. So they're like those big sheet calendars. If you used to work at a desk, you'd have them on your desk, and they kind of took up your whole desk, and then you could kind of see, and they had a plastic, covering over top of them to protect while you were working. But what I do is I actually buy those big ones, and then I put them up on our wall downstairs in our kitchen area so that I can see what's coming up, and Jason kind of has an idea where I am in the world. I have all of that done, and then I started planning out. So I like to say I have 5 jobs, but only 2 of them pay me. So I am attempting to get some of those other ones to actually generate income. It's a struggle. So both of my paying jobs are, of course, the chocolate and the teaching. And then the ones that don't pay me are all the ones that are content creation. So things like this Food Explorer podcast and all the other stuff. So I feel the ratio is a little off, a little bit off, but that's okay. Eventually it will come, and I will be ready for it. I did have fun though this week, and so yesterday I actually started writing down all the things that I need to do to get the last few things done for the baking area, and that's all done now. And I had a really good sort of deep work planning session for this podcast and figuring out what I want to do with it for this year. So I came up with some fun ideas, you guys. I'm excited. And then I wrote like 100-point to-do list for the chocolate business. And a lot of that is just, I really want this year for everything that I'm doing with the chocolate to be smoother than it has been in past years. So I really started thinking about, okay, in the tasting room, what's going to make the tasting room more efficient? And it's little things. And, sometimes it's the little things that really change your workflow and the amount of time that it takes to do something. So, for instance, I do the chocolate and mocktail class. So we make mocktails, and it's great fun. But I had the glasses for the mocktails that we use for the class in 4 spots. So I actually cleaned out an area, put everything in one spot so that the next time I have a class, I'm not like, where's all those glasses that I need? So just making it really easy and actually making the space for things. And once I started kind of cleaning out the tasting room, especially getting the baking supplies that were in the tasting room on the shelves out of here, I suddenly have a lot more space. So I was able to take all of my coffee. So I have all my little coffee pods. And again, they were in multiple spaces. Now they are in 2 big glass jars and a bowl with sort of what I'm drinking right now. So makes it so much easier. So just doing stuff like that. And I started planning out for some of my other projects that I'm working on, some of the things I want to do with that. So that was really great. I'm going to drink a little bit of my coffee here because I have to tell you something. I'm feeling ranty right now. So it's appropriate that I'm drinking a coffee that I made at home. I don't know if any of you have seen this. So it is January 11th right now. My sweetie's birthday is tomorrow. He's a January 12th birthday. I'm going to pull this up on my phone. 2 days ago, they posted an article, and the article is Starbucks among chains named in class action lawsuit for surcharging customers. Back when I started this podcast, in one of my first episodes, I talked about that I wanted to do a full episode, deep dive into a huge pet peeve of mine, and that is coffee shops charging extra for alternate milk. Makes me nuts. Starbucks used to charge, it was like 40 cents for milk alternative, and then it went up to 80 cents. I go to Starbucks. I'm not going to be like, I don't go to Starbucks. I go to Starbucks. I travel all the time. Last year, I figured out I was basically on the road for 6 months. So I'm going to the Starbucks. It's convenient. I'm on the highway. No shame in my game. But it always bugged me that they charged extra. So what I would do is I would just collect the points, and then I'd use the points so I didn't have to pay for the milk alternative. Now, if you're like, why don't you just drink dairy? I can't drink dairy anymore. I mean, we can drink it together if you want. We'll reserve a spot at the hospital. We'll all go together. Back in, oh my gosh. Let's think of the timeline here. So I used to drink regular milk, no problem. And I think my parents used to kind of joke that my brother and I were like little baby cows because we drank so much milk. We were both in sports. We were both busy. I moved out of the country. So in 1997, I think I moved out of the country. I was living in the Bahamas and didn't really drink much milk in the Bahamas because it was expensive. There wasn't a lot of it. It wasn't really part of our lifestyle anymore. Like getting up in the morning and having a bowl of cereal or drinking milk with cookies. Like you didn't do that when we lived in the Bahamas. It was a very different lifestyle and a very different way of eating. Then I moved to Florida. And in Florida, I'd actually gotten sick a couple times. A lot of stomach issues. And when I started thinking about that, it was kind of a challenge to deal with because I didn't really know what was wrong. Looking back on it now, I mean, one, I was getting food poisoning every day at work. That's a whole other story. Myself and all the other staff, we were basically food poisoning every day. There was no safe food handling protocols at the 5-star resort that I worked at. Let's just leave it at that. $6,000 medical bill was pretty cheap compared to what you usually would have to pay. But when I moved back to Canada from living in the Bahamas, so 3.5 years in the Bahamas, about a year and a half, bit more in Florida, I couldn't drink milk anymore. So I had some milk. I was living at that point with my soon-to-be husband and living at his parents' place, and they ate all organic. Everything was like high-end organic. Had some milk one day. Ooh, did not feel good. And then I think I did end up in the hospital at one point. Just horrible, horrible stomach issues. And basically it was the milk. I couldn't drink milk anymore. Now, here's the thing. I can have dairy in other forms, and I have talked about this in the past. So I can have ice cream, I can have milk, so any dairy that has been processed, I'm fine with, but straight up drink a glass of milk from the cow, cannot do it. I never drank coffee, so I wasn't a coffee drinker at that point, so didn't really bother me. If we got something at Starbucks, which we hardly ever did, because again, it wasn't really part of our lifestyle. But if I did get something, it was a chai latte, and I got it with soy milk. So fast forward a few years later, I still can't drink milk, and I have been paying the surcharge for having a milk alternative. Last year, I talked to a friend of mine. Does commodities and he's in the dairy world. And I was like, can you please come on the podcast? Because I want to talk to you about this, annoying and now becoming gouging of coffee shops. And I know I have talked about this on the podcast before, but just for those of you that are new or for those of you that don't remember this, going to a coffee shop. I love going to coffee shops. Hi, coffee shops out there. I do love you. However, I can make my very nice fancy latte at home, and it's costing me $1.40 at the maximum. So the pod is like $1.26, and then I've got my oat milk for coffee in here. It's delicious. So I'm not paying very much for this coffee that I can make at home, and I can make it exactly how I want it. When I'm going to the coffee shops, though, they're charging $1.25, $1.50 for milk alternative. They're charging syrups. Like, I don't even remember what coffee shop I was at. It was like $1.25 for a shot of syrup. And I was like, really? So my coffee was like $8. I was very unhappy. I don't want to spend that much on coffee. So here's what happened. I'm going to go back to the article. November 7th, 2024 is when Starbucks was like, y'all, we're not going to charge anymore for the milk alternatives. And I rejoiced. Oh my gosh. I was like, November 7th, I went and got a Starbucks that day. I didn't even need to go get a Starbucks that day. And I went and got one because it was the first time that I could get a caramel macchiato with coconut milk, and I didn't have to pay extra, and I didn't have to use my points. So that was really lovely. And it was funny because I started saving my points up because in December we did the Banff Christmas market. And so I get from Crinkle Coffee. Crinkle Coffee is the local coffee roaster at the market. So I would get from them every day, but traveling there and traveling back, I would always grab a Starbucks. So I used my free points to get the big giant drinks, because why wouldn't I? So November 7th, 2024, Starbucks was like, we're going to drop the surcharge. We're not going to do that anymore. But in this lawsuit, and it is a class action lawsuit that has been put forth by a law firm in Quebec. So they are targeting Starbucks, Second Cup, and Tim Hortons for the surcharges. I saw this article. I immediately sent it to my friend who does the milk trading commodities. I did a big old ranty email to him. I'm sure he just giggled when he saw it, because he knows that I do like to rant about stuff like that. And yeah, he was like, yeah, we were supposed to do that podcast last year. This was all in the works for last year. I can show you the documents if you'd like. So just kind of, it's one of those things where I'm mad at myself because I was talking about this last year, the year before that. I've been talking about this for years and how much it annoys me. So cheers with my coffee here. In the lawsuit, though, and this is something that we were watching, that weird Explorer podcast the other day. I really like that guy. He does fruit. And he did a series where he compared the milk alternatives to each other to find the best one for his preference. So he compared it in on its own as just drinking it, in cereal, and in coffee. And he did like a price chart of how much these things cost. And in this article, it says, the court document notes that soy milk, almond milk, coconut milk retail for about 21 cents for 100 ml. Oat milk retails for 23 cents for 100 ml. And Quebec milk retails for 23 cents for 100 ml. So technically, you should have been charging me less when I got soy almond or coconut milk because it actually costs less. And then it just, the article goes on. Some of the places are like, oh, we didn't charge extra. No, y'all did. You did charge extra. And you've been doing it for a long time. So I've, since 2020, I have paid extra for the milk because we moved back. When did we move back? We moved back from Florida in like 2000 and something. So right about then I started paying extras. I'm going to look and see. I'll post a link in this episode below if you want to get in on the class action lawsuit. But here's my question. Local coffee shops, what are y'all going to do now? Because when the big three are getting taken to court for surcharging and you're gouging, because the little coffee shops in the area are charging way more for milk alternatives than Starbucks. I think Starbucks was the most at 80 cents. But at least, if you collected points, you could get that taken off. But I'm just so curious to see what's going to happen because it's one of those things that gets me really ranty. So that's my rant about that. Let's see where it goes. Tell me what you think. Do you think that these places should be charging extra? And like it says in the article, the barista is not spending extra time to make your drink with oat milk instead of cow milk. That, it's one of those things where it's just like, really? And I watch. Okay, this is the other thing that makes me so mad. Oh my gosh, I better have some more coffee. I watch at these places the amount of milk, so dairy, non-dairy milk that they throw out. So the barista will pour it into the thing that they're going to steam it in, and it's too much for the cup, and they throw it out. And I was watching the one day, and I think the one girl, every single coffee that she made, at least a quarter cup was being thrown down the drain after every cup. So let's start adding that up. That doesn't take long to get to a cup out. And I'm kind of looking like, that milk didn't touch anything. Why don't you use it for the next cup? Like, what are you doing? You obviously aren't measuring. So at this point, you might as well just start, making cups and using, so you froth it for Jane's drink, but now what? Jody can't get that milk that's sitting in the carafe? Honest to goodness, and there's some days where I just have to walk away because I was so disgusted by the amount of stuff that was thrown out. And anyways, oh my gosh, I've only had one coffee today, you guys. But I'm pretty ranty about this. So I will post the link for the article below so you can check it out and tell me what you think. Because I think that little coffee shops are going to get a rude awakening and not being able to charge extra. Baking. Let's go on to baking. So today was our day to go to the farmer's market, and we went to our favorite bakery, and they don't always have these, but today Farmhouse Bakery did have my favorite, which is the Butterhorn. Oh my goodness. So it's like that brioche bun with the icing and the walnuts on top. My goodness, delightful. So I'm going to eat that. I've got a whole bunch more organizing and cleaning to do today because I have my 100-point list from the chocolates that I need to get done. And I was going to bake something today, but we went to the farmer's market, and not only did we buy that, we bought 2 loaves of bread. So a Russian rye bread, olive, rosemary, sourdough bread. We bought 2, 3, 4, 5 tarts. Jason ate 3 of them already. Got an Nanaimo bar and something else. I don't remember. Oh, he got a sticky toffee pudding. We have a lot of baked goods, so I'm not baking anything today. So the baking series, I'll bake something else maybe tomorrow. I do need to make some muffins and freeze them though. And I have a, how should I put this nicely? I have a frozen banana problem. I have a lot of frozen bananas, so I am going to take care of those frozen bananas. So we'll get something. Maybe I'll just do a frozen banana baking video today. Do you have a problem with frozen bananas? Me too. And the last thing that I wanted to say for this episode is I saw a bookstagrammer the other day, and her husband were showing off their book haul. And he showed this book called Food IQ. And I was like, oh my gosh, that book sounds amazing. It looked really cool. So Food IQ, 100 questions, answers, and recipes to raise your cooking smarts. And so I immediately got it from the library because they had it. And as soon as I started reading it from the library book copy, I was like, oh, no. I need my own copy. So I now have 101, 102, because I counted my books the other day. I counted how many books I have, how many like cookbook, food memoir, baking, chocolate, reference books. I had 101. Now I have 102. Yay. This book is, it's very, very cool. So it's a chef, Daniel Holzman, and a reporter, food writer named Matt Rodbard. And in the book, they have a really cool setup. So they have lots of pictures for how to do stuff. They have recipes, but they also have things like, so when buying meat, how do I get the best bang for my buck? So they'll go through and talk about, what's the best cut to buy. They have all these really cool reference recipes. What's the difference between a regular convection and steam oven? And when do I turn on the fan? So it's like these things that you've always kind of wondered. And you're like, what is the difference between those? And which one should I use? And I love this one. I'm not a street pharmacist, wink, wink. Do I really need a digital scale? And so it kind of goes through all of these different food questions and a bit of know-how. And as I was reading, just like I probably got maybe like 20 pages into the library book and immediately was like, yeah, I got to have this for myself. They have guest chefs and food writers in here. They have all these different really cool questions. And I love that you can kind of use the book as a reference book. You can go through and pick out what you want to know. So maybe you don't care about the best cut of meat because you just want to know about vegetables. Well, okay, here's the question. When is it okay to cook with frozen vegetables? I mean, I'm just flipping through this book and I'm coming up with all these great things. So I thought this would be really fun for Jason and I to kind of look through it and just kind of, I don't know, get some of the answers to some of these fun questions that sometimes we do things and we don't know why we're doing it. And it takes somebody to go, is that the best way to do that? Or is there a different way we could do that? And so, yeah, Food IQ, Daniel Holtzman and Matt Rodbard. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry, friend. I'm saying your name wrong. But I was able to get this book and it's really kind of fun. So it just came the other day. So I'm going to start zipping through it again because I just returned the library book because I was like, somebody else can have this library book right now. And what else have we got coming up? I have some teaching coming up, which I'm very excited about. Some new hospitality courses. I'm teaching 2 brand new to me courses, a supervisor course and a leadership course, and a new edition of a textbook that I've taught before. And I'm just kind of looking around. And I'm going to get some cleaning done. Oh, and then that was the last thing. Last thing I'm going to tell you guys, I came up with a really cool idea. So I used to work at an organic grocery store in Canmore. I loved it there. And we as staff constantly got samples of stuff. And so I have a bin and a half. Let's conservatively say a bin and a half. So a bin being like a big giant box of tea. I can't get through this tea. It doesn't matter how much tea I drink a week. I feel like I don't make a dent in the tea. The funny thing is I'll still buy more tea because I don't want to drink that flavor right now. I know I'm that person. I've got 100 flavors of tea, but what I really want right now is the Alpine Peppermint for Jolene's tea. So that's what I go and buy. And I did just buy some Alpine Peppermint tea from Jolene's tea because it's delicious. But I was thinking about all this tea and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get through it. I decided, because my other little problem is I have a ton of balsamic vinegars that I'm just not using as fast as I need to be using. So one of the things with setting up the baking area was get using all these ingredients that I have, because for the most part, except for flour and sugar, which I just didn't have because I haven't done any baking, I have everything else. So I'm going to be making this lemon poppy seed cake. I had everything except for the flour, the sugar, and I needed fresh lemons because I needed some zest. I had everything else though. I had every other ingredient. I even had the turmeric powder that they want you to use. Like, come on. So I thought with this tea and this balsamic vinegar sitch that I have happening, because I have a lot. I going to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. I think I have 30 bottles of balsamic vinegar right now. And it's because I would buy it for chocolate. I would buy it, so I would use it for the chocolate. So like this last advent calendar, we had 3 or 4 chocolates in there with the balsamic vinegar in it. But now I've got a long span of time until my next events. So we're going to start taking some of these balsamic vinegars, doing some fun combinations. And I thought, what better thing to do? I'm going to make some syrups. So I'm going to make some tea balsamic vinegar syrups. I will definitely tell you guys how I do it and how I put all the flavors together. Like I have an umeboshi plum and I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, oh, like I kind of want to put it with a chai. I kind of might want to put it with, like, I've got some fruit, herbal teas. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I'm going to put it with. So stay tuned for that as well. As always, I hope wherever you are at, you're having an amazing day. Maybe you're cooking up a storm. Maybe you're out grocery shopping the deals. I don't know what you're doing. Did you get $4.09 per pound butter? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Jason got that for me. I'm very happy because butter is expensive and I love butter. Please make sure you tell all your friends. Subscribe. Go follow that Colleen at the Food Explorer podcast. She's got stuff happening. And stay wherever you're at this weekend. I hope you're warm. It's raining, snowing today, so lovely. That's not a great combination for driving. We're staying inside the rest of the day. I will talk to you very soon, everybody. Check out some of the past episodes if you haven't, because there's a lot of gems in there. And with that, thank you and have a great day.